Ramon Abbas, the self-confessed international fraudster, better known as Hush Puppy, will be sentenced in October. This is according to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Central District of California. The U.S. court has also confirmed that a directive was issued to the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, for the arrest of Nigerian top detective Abba Kyari. The court's director of media relations says the U.S. magistrate judge has issued arrest warrants for the defendants in the case, including Kyari. Although Kyari dismisses the allegations, an investigation by the FBI claims the detective collaborated with Hush Puppy to facilitate the arrest of Vincent Chibuzo.
Well, Nigeria's former Assistant Inspector General of Police, Chief Tunji Alakmini, shares his perspective on the issue.
I'm happy the Inspector General has written to the Police Service Commission for his suspension. That's long overdue. And I'm sure probably they were taking their time to look through the allegation being presented to them by the FBI. Because from what we gathered about all these incidents, these are things we all read in the media. It is not something that I have the papers with me. It is not what you have the papers with you. It is all what we are reading in the media that we are basing all our judgment, all our submission, all our discussions on. But be that as it may, since the Inspector General of Police has deemed it fit to recommend him for suspension, I think it's a good, though late, but it's a good thing. And at least it will go a long way to show to the FBI, the community, and to the public. We have a public that is always ready to put anybody on trial once it is in the public purview. And so the man is in public trial, is on an international view, and the FBI, the Americans, they are looking, they want to see what we are doing. So it's good he's been put on suspension, so that it will give them a clear way for them to look into this matter. But as much as I would want them to look into this matter, I want them to look into it thoroughly. It took the Americans some months, a long time for them to come to the conclusion that, yes, we want to indict Abba Kyari. These people set up by the team set up by the Inspector General of Police should not rush, should take their time, and go back through the same process, back through the same corridor from which this case came up, and make sure they go through and find and be thorough about it. They should not stampede themselves. They should go into every information that you and I have read in the newspapers. Because I don't have the facts from the American court, you don't have it. All we all have is what we've seen in the papers. So if we are basing all our arguments on that, everybody should go through that information in that to be able to arrive at something.
Well, let's not say that's a typical Nigerian investigator. We have the facts. The facts are all in the public domain.
That's right.
Retired AIG Tunji Alakmini. And for more on this, let's turn to Arise News analyst, Associate Professor of Law, Dr. Sam AMADI. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
I mean, the facts are in the public domain. That's why the FBI are insisting. And how much time does it really need an eternal investigative panel to dissect what the district court in California has laid, before the public domain? It's in the public sphere now.
I think clearly what should happen, don't forget that this indictment, under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, you cannot raise an indictment and a warrant against any person without what they call substantial case. So first, what they have just disclosed to us is enough case to convince the district judge that there's a need, a case to answer. And the U.S. law is very clear. It must be specific. So the warrant can say search X, you can't search Y. If you do, that's a serious violation of the Constitution.
It could be a contravention.
Exactly. So this indictment is very clear. Evidence shows that this person has a case to answer. And so the only thing to investigate in Nigeria would be to see first, is it a valid warrant? Of course it is. How does the want to respond? You have to ensure that the accused person goes to face trial, except you want to reject the enforcement of a valid indictment by U.S. government, U.S. court, fully established court in Nigeria. That raises a lot of constitutional law and international law issues for Nigeria. So when the IG sets up a panel, it's not a panel to start investigating, call hush puppy. When did you give the U.S. investigation took time? They don't indict without investigation. And so what we saw is a snippet enough to ground the warrant. The real evidence for prosecution is available and made available. So first, we acted wisely to suspend him. The next, because you can't just dismiss him without due process, the next will now be protocol for having him go and face the trial, except Nigeria wants to reject, to enforce on diplomatic basis and on recognizance of a valid indictment of a U.S. District Court. So if you go back and ask yourself, do we have the capability to do the investigation? Someone's talking about investigating. Now think about FBI. They have the laws, the RICO, the several conventions on bribery that allows them to scope around and find behavior of individuals and agencies. When did you hear about Nigerian police ever investigating and indicting criminal conduct of their officers? So the notion that somehow Nigerian legal system or Nigerian anti-corruption laws are robust enough to ground this kind of inquiry is farcical. We just can't do it. And so what they have shown us is that this is a case of a developed jurisdiction where courts are free, prosecutors are smart with enablement, ground rails that protect the evidence gathering and even protect the prosecutors from blowback. We don't have that. And so this is just, we should thank God that we have the FBI to show us what may be a common practice in Nigeria of institutions of law enforcement aiding criminals. And not just to say, let's investigate. We just not do no investigation. We have to just take a policy decision to take him to face trial because we can verify that this is a completely valid indictment borne out by evidence. They can't just go and get a search warrant or arrest warrant except there is really credible evidence connecting you to the facts. All
right. I mean, it's interesting how you said it there. Thank God for the FBI. It's almost ridiculous to say. Now, Abba Kyari, a Nigeria's top detective and super cop, if you want. But before the American courts, now he is a suspect. How embarrassing can this be to us, even as a nation? Totally embarrassing. I mean, it's basically a clear case of shredding the anti-corruption war, basically. This is our top cop. This is the most decorated, if you like, of the small rank and file. This is the guy who's a legend, urban legend, in terms of
20 years
cracking down, exactly, cracking down high crime. Criminals. And this is the IG's lead man on this kind of crime. And the IG's lead man has this, slap on the face. His garment is dirty. It destroyed the credibility of this anti-corruption war. And so Nigeria can act well what they're doing now, what the government is doing the right thing to do. Suspension plus quick disposition, take him to trial, even at the end of this dismissal. So the response so far so good. They have to make sure that will help us reclaim back some kind of credibility to the war. If you try to dig our heels and the so-called why you would say, oh, this is FBI, taking on our Mr. Saint. No, that will further damage the Nigerian state. Nigeria is
I'm even looking at it from the international perspective, and let's say, okay, Nigeria refuses to hand over Abba Kyari, saying, look, we have enough laws to try him here in Nigeria. What kind of diplomatic consequences will this have between the United States and Nigeria?
First, internationally, there will be a perception of Nigeria being almost a rogue state. They know you don't have the framework. I mean, this is not like talking to Nigeria. This is global. Everybody can assess Nigeria's level of quality, institutions, anti-crime laws, and anti-crime procedures. So if you tell us, hey guys, we will manage it ourselves, that we see as a collusion. They will see it as you trying to hide crime. So it's not credible. Again, if you refuse, can Nigeria withstand the diplomatic row with US? This government has been very, very clear about where their interest lies, to maintain good relationship with Britain and US. In fact, most often the president speaks well when he goes out. That's why he makes policy statements. So for this government, friendly relationship with Britain and America is top number one. So I don't see them compromising it to protect a well-favored top cop. I see Abba Kyari being thrown under the bus to save the government. And clearly they should do that, because this is a case that is clear and evident. People don't know the American system. This indictment couldn't have happened without very clear. They have never missed it. They have never had anybody indicted who went to court and wasn't proved to be guilty. People can get free based on law, based on loopholes, based on some level of compromise and some level of maybe plea bargain. But definitely, it's rare to find a person where, if you look at the cases going on with Trump and his organization, they don't bring an indictment. They will only bring it when they have
concrete evidence.
Arguable case. So I don't see why Nigeria should, risk diplomatic crisis. Again, it's going to damage the anti-corruption work, because everybody will know that, look, this is government trying to basically save this guy because the system is corrupt.
All right, thanks so very much, Dr. Sam AMADI. But just a quick correction here, that the Nigeria police have been trying its officers and men internally before charging them to court for misdemeanors. A case in point is the late DSP or SP Iyamu during the Anini saga, and I know again. Yes, I mean, so you got a lot of them. It's not just to destroy the Nigeria police.
I agree with you.
Thank you.